I mean, let's remember here, we funded. That's great. Let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam.
The deal with Saudi Arabia, and I couldn't get an answer on specifically how we were monitoring their support, their continued support of the exportation of Wahhabism, Salafism, and the terror that goes along with that fundamentalist view of Islam around the globe. Do you know of any metrics that the department is following to support their claim that they are working on that? How are we gauging that? How are we going to determine whether they're following along with that portion of the agreement?
Well, one of the outcomes of the President's summit in Riyadh was the creation of the Center to counter extreme Muslim messaging with Saudi Arabia.
Even back then, it was all about oil.
The Balfour Declaration gave British support for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, which was part of the Ottoman Empire.
Power games that reached their peak in Paris after the First World War. The victors didn't create order and peace in the Middle East and Anatolia, but instead made false promises.
New borders were drawn, new states were created, which had enormous potential for conflict, and which, if you look from 1918 to the present, keep returning to the political agenda.
The wounds have not healed, but are in fact still open.
And it's my impression that this attitude, this view of the region, is a consequence of this period, of the Sèvres Agreement, of the post-war order after the First World War.
The bloody legacy of Sèvres. The porcelain factory is a symbol of just how fragile the world in the Middle East remains today.
And they moved on a sectarian basis to seize the Islamic lands.
We recognize in you both a leader of the Arabian people and a custodian of those cities most sacred to Islam.
Today flies side by side with the flag of the United States.
The state Wahhabi ideology is taught to Saudi children from an early age. Books made in Saudi Arabia, but exported to the world.
As we've seen, the defining characteristic of Wahhabis is their hatred and backstabbing of the Ummah. Nothing better represents this than the alliance of the Wahhabis with the British in the early 20th century. In 1915, Ibn Saud signed the Treaty of Darin. This treaty made the Wahhabi Najd a British protectorate. This is exactly what happened at the end of the war, including Palestine, which was then given to Jews to establish Israel. And of course, the rest of the Arab lands were divided up into nation states, creating the dysfunctional mess known as the modern Middle East we know today. The depressing situation we have today in Palestine and the Middle East is the result of exactly what the Wahhabis worked for.
It's like one just came out today, which talks about a long history of Saudi involvement in the alleged sponsoring of radical Islamists.
The UK-based Henry Jackson Society released a report in 2017 stating that Saudi Arabia,
since the 1960s, has sponsored a multi-million-dollar effort to export Wahhabi Islam across the Islamic world, including to Muslim communities in the West.
Conundrum for most moderate Muslims is that the two holy cities of Mecca and Medina have been in Wahhabi hands for 90 years. Saudi money has strategically silenced virtually all criticism in the international media.
They're using the Jewish religion totally immorally, wrongly, because again, Judaism is to keep the Torah, to serve God, as we did for hundreds of years. To occupy, to steal, to create a state is expressly forbidden according to my Torah. All the rabbis around the world for 130 years since Zionism started spoke up in every way, in every style that they had, and declared that Zionism is totally unacceptable. And the chief rabbi in 1947 was Rabbi Dushinsky, of blessed memory, and he pleaded with the United Nations, which is in their documents. He said, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. And since then, we've been demonstrating the tens and hundreds of thousands and being brutally beaten by the Zionists. And we know these are what the Zionists tell the world. Their narrative is that they're God's blessing to the world, the end of exile. But on the contrary, the support and the furtherance of the state of Israel is only causing as you see, 75 years and more of bloodshed of the Palestinians, that's the mass slaughter that's happening now. We live together, Jews and Muslims and Christians, together in Palestine and around the Muslim world in harmony. There's Judaism called Zionism. They have created this quagmire. They are the ones who are the patrons, the ones who are the cause, and saying this is unacceptable. The occupation is not Judaism, and they don't want to hear that. And they brutally, this is the army for the Israel. Yet they do this with impunity. How come? For a doctor to prescribe a medicine, he has to diagnose the sickness. They have to understand that Zionism is the problem. Remove that, we can have a fine Judaism that we had for thousands of years, practicing our religions properly and living together with the Muslims. We lived together, they protected us. And we, in fact, as Jews, we have to show gratitude, good to us. It was the Muslim countries that gave us a home. And we have to show gratitude to that.
All them Palestinian terrorists. That's why say Palestinian.
जनूबी पंजाब में अहले हदीस और देवबंदी मकतब फिक्र के उलमा को सऊदी अरब और मुत्तहदा अरब इमारात की मुख्तलिफ तंजीमें सालाना तकरीबन $10 करोड़ की माली मुआवनत फराहम करती हैं।
अजीज इब्ने सऊद की फतूहात में उस वक्त के साम्राज्य ब्रिटिश राज का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा है। उन्होंने न सिर्फ अब्दुल अजीज इब्ने सऊद का क्लेम रिकॉग्नाइज किया, पहचाना कि हाँ तुम ही यहाँ के बादशाह बनोगे, बल्कि उनको उन्होंने हथियार दिए, उनको पैसा दिया, उनकी हर तरह से मदद की। सबसे अहम मुआहदा जो अब्दुल अजीज इब्ने सऊद ने किया वो वहाबी उलमा के साथ था। वो लोग जो मोहम्मद इब्ने अब्दुल वहाब के कायल थे और वहाबी सोच के कायल थे, उनको उन्होंने कहा कि भाई हुक्मरानी मेरी और मजहबी अमूर पे सारा कंट्रोल तुम्हारा। ये मुआहदा आज तक सऊदी अरेबिया में कायम।
सऊदिया ने जिस तरीके से पाकिस्तान के अंदर वहाबीइज्म को जिस तरीके से प्रमोट किया है, हमने वहाबीइज्म को प्रमोट किया, उसकी तरवीज की, उसको तरगीब दी और मुख्तलिफ ममालिक में उसकी तरवीज के लिए, उसकी प्रोपगेशन के लिए सारी की सारी फंडिंग जो है वो सऊदी अरब ने की। अब ये एक बहुत बड़ा एतराफ है, ये एक बहुत बड़ा कन्फेशन है, इसके क्या इम्पैक्ट आएंगे। और वो सऊदी अरब जो अपने आप को इस्लाम का इजारादार, इस्लाम का ठेकेदार समझता है, उस सऊदी अरब की इस स्टेटमेंट के बाद क्या साख रह जाते, इस कन्फेशन के बाद क्या साख रह जाते।